When people say someone's lucky, that person goes into the unknown. That's why they look lucky, because they went into a place that you don't look at, and they're getting something there that seems like luck to you. But when you go into that unknown place, you see that it's not so lucky. It's actually very natural and very much a part of the universe and nature. It's actually a very clear thing that would happen.
It's a very powerful ally.
Yes. This is Way of the Artist with Brandon Colby Cook and Evan Schulte.
Identifying your blocks and demystifying your struggles
so that you can claim your own path
and make your life a work of art. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Way of the Artist. Never know what's going to happen in these intros.
You just never know.
And that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're talking about the unknown, the law of the unknown. And I was pumped coming in to talk about this one because this is a law that I absolutely love. I mean, I don't know if it's really appropriate to love some laws more than others. But this is one that I get a certain kind of joy out of discussing and embracing. And as we get into this, like this podcast is so much about the unknown. Mm-hmm. I mean, we step into this, we know what we're going to talk about, but we don't really know how it's all going to go. Mm-hmm. We don't really know the direction it's going to take, much like our lives.
Yeah. We never know how either of us are going to introduce. We never know what way we're going to go about covering the points we think we're going to cover. We never know what things we'll discover along the way during the podcast. And we think we know what we're going to talk about, and yet we don't know. And I think that's kind of an exciting thing. I think what's kind of neat, too, about us talking about this, and we had a great little pre-talk, but you and I both come at the law of the unknown from a little bit of a different place. Mm. And I think what's kind of cool is bringing both our perspectives together and finding an interesting kind of medium between it all. Because, I mean, you with definitely all your experience in teaching people like Meisner acting and being in the moment and being present, and how much like trusting the unknown and how important that is in that process. That's one way in which you kind of come very like now, be right now, be here in this moment. And so for me, it's a little bit more from the filmmaker side, I think, where I look at it and I go, I'm almost going and seeing this journey that's about to happen, where it's not so much about where I'm at this moment, but the unknown exploration of the adventure we're about to go into. Mm-hmm. And I think both are very relevant. And, there's probably even a little bit of which I haven't really mentioned, but the unknown of the past too, where it's like, we think we know our past, but do we really know? Yeah. And these are all types of things we're going to get into today. So enjoy, folks.
Yeah. There's a lot of meat to this one.
Yeah.
So where do we even want to start with this? I don't even know where to start with this one.
Yeah, well, I think let's help summarize a little bit about what the law of the unknown is for people. It's an interesting law because I think like if people have clicked on this, you might not have known what you're getting into, and that's good because. I mean, it's the law of the unknown, obviously, but the thing is I think the unknown is something that we're not very familiar with in our culture and society at this time, in life, where I think we were all, most of us at least, were born into a certain belief system that there's certain expectations and predictions and things like that will be your life and who you think you are and what you think life's supposed to be and how you think a relationship is supposed to be and all of this. And there's all this stuff we think we know or we think we're supposed to know. And I think the law of the unknown kind of goes, well, maybe you don't know, but also maybe it's okay that you don't know. And further, maybe it's actually better that you don't know.
And I would say that that's more the case with the law of the unknown. The law of the unknown is this thing that's saying, she's like, no, like, embrace it. This is great. Like, it makes us, I think this is the challenge with it, is that the unknown makes us so uncomfortable. But the flip side to it is that the unknown is where we also come to life. That's the rub of the whole thing. So it's like getting past that whole uncomfortable part of it, because that's like, it's, to me, it's a small price to pay. It's a small toll to cross the bridge into the unknown lands, you know, because that's where we make discoveries. That's where we open up to something new, something different, and new wisdom, new insights, new perspectives. They only lie in that unknown territory. We don't get new perspectives from staying where we are.
No.
You know, if we want to compare, it's like we talk a lot about the path here. There's if you stay where you are, you know, it's great to go and take the perspective where you are, but eventually at some point you're going to go, okay, well, what else is out there? And that feeling, that compelling drive that's in us to say, like, what else is out there? What else is possible? Demands that we step into that unknown place to rise to new heights, to find new territories, and those things reveal to us new possibilities and give us new vantage points that color and shape our lives and what we do in our lives.
I think the real, like, one of, you know, there's so many benefits of embracing the law of the unknown, and I think it's not a common practice. And I think that, you know, hopefully, my hope is that not only will we create more clarity on this subject and this idea, but that people will be inspired and encouraged and feel motivated to be willing to go out into the world and have an adventure, because adventures only occur in the unknown. You know, they don't occur when you walk the same well-worn path that has already been walked by a million other people before you, or you do the same thing you've always done. You know, you need to be willing to just go another way, just to explore. And I think the other thing, and I think this is an important thing to mention about the law of the unknown, don't be scared of dead ends. Don't be scared of paths that seem to lead nowhere. Because, you know, I think there's two ways to do life. There's more than two, but there's two basic ways to do life. One way is you go down a path that you know leads somewhere. Some promised land, some place. You don't know what the promised land is really like, but you've been vividly told what it's like, and so you walk that path, hoping one day when you get there, it will be everything you've ever promised. Many people have done that. And they turn around and tell us all, it's not what you think. Don't do it this way, honestly. Like, I know it looks great, but it's not what you think. And then the other way of going about life is to go down the path, but to go down your path and start to find ways that maybe no one else has ever walked before, ever. But, you know, you decide to go down it and you just explore it and you see it. And a real neat thing happens. You may end up at a dead end. You may end up at a place that maybe didn't lead you to where you wanted or whatever, but you get an experience of something that maybe no one else has ever had, or very, very few have ever had. And when you come back to wherever it is where you started from, or when you walk another path that goes another way, you can tell people of this unknown journey that you went on that was all your own. And very few people can tell people about that. And there's an amazing amount of value you can get from having an experience, law of experience, when you go into the unknown and get something that others have never had the chance to get. And by the way, this experience you got in the unknown might be the very thing that allows you to get over a hurdle on a common path that most can never get over.
Yeah. And the thing is that this thing that you get is probably going to be something that you didn't expect. You don't usually step into the unknown knowing what the outcome is going to be.
Great point.
It's like you might have certain notions and ideas, and some of them might not be totally off base, but really embracing it means being completely surprised, or being open to being completely surprised by what you see.
Yeah.
And what you come away with. It's not, it really is not saying like, oh yeah, I'm going to go down this direction, which I've never done before, and that's what I'm going to get out of it. It's like the only thing you know that you're going to get out of it is an experience you've never had before.
Yes.
But you never know like what the sort of the gold, what the real experience, what the real juice of what you're going to get out of is going to be. That's why it's the unknown.
Well, and we just talked about the law of experience. And I mean, if you live for experiences as opposed to things or status or destinations, I think you'll have a much more fulfilling, holistic, complete life that shows you more of who you truly are, more of what you can be, and all of that. And the thing is like, this is the great myth that I think artists discover. And I'm talking about people who really are artists. I'm talking about people who really have the courage to walk into the unknown. I'm not talking about someone just because they paint, they're an artist. I'm talking about an artist, like someone who actually goes out and tries to challenge themselves to do something new and explore and have an adventure and express themselves in a very authentic way, which maybe they've never seen done before, and they do that with bravery. That's the kind of artist I'm talking about. So let's just be clear. But when I say that, I'm saying that these experiences, when we look at these artists, when we look at these entrepreneurs, when we look at these people who have done incredible things and we don't understand them, it's because they've done the thing that was not common. They went out and they went their own way. And they came back to tell us about their experiences, and they intertwined their experiences into their whatever this thing is they did, their life, their creations, their expressions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
they're following a passion. They're following a purpose. Mm-hmm. They're following something that is bigger than any sort of limited idea of themselves. I think that's a huge part of it. I think that's a huge part of what allows us to step into the unknown and allows us to have something that is unique. Mm-hmm. It's in the pursuit of that meaning in our lives. That's just like, you know what? Like, because that's the only way really that you get past that uncomfortable part of the unknown is being connected to something bigger. And the thing is that it's that bigger thing. It's that following the heart. It's that, we talked about this like a little while ago. It's like, that's why you've got to follow your heart, why you've got to lead with your heart, because the heart's the thing that's going to take you into the unknown.
Yes.
The head's going to want to keep you where you are, which is why you've got to lead with the heart.
Yeah. And
you head out with that thing, and that's what brings you into the unknown spaces. And that's where we find our growth. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And and that's really I wanted to say on that. And so it's being connected to that, and some of the laws that are related, that are very kind of closely related to this one, to the unknown, are trust and presence. I mean, I don't know if we want to get into those quite just yet, but those are a couple of key components that are really great sort of assists in living this law of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. I think also with the law of the unknown, there's a really important element to the unknown. And when you're on your journey, you're getting experiences, you're doing whatever, you want to embrace the idea that you're on a search, in my opinion. You're on a search to find something, to find your way. And here's the thing of it. You don't know what you're looking for yet. That's what's so great. That's in my opinion, that's the core of the unknown. You're on a search for something and you don't even know what it is. And that is the ultimate unknown, because you don't know what to look for. You don't know where to look. You don't know where to go. The only thing that you have this little heart inside of you, you have whatever it is, you call it your heart, call it your spirit, call it whatever you want to call it, your true self. And it knows, but your mind doesn't. And so your mind's constantly going, well, we don't know what it is. We can't. It's too dangerous. So all this stuff can happen. But your heart's going, no, I know it's out there. I know what it is. And your heart is not like your brain. It doesn't have like a way to tell you just directly. So like, imagine you're watching a movie. I'm just going to run people through an experience. Imagine you're watching a movie. And as you're going through the movie, they're going, so by the way, this is going to happen next. This is the next scene. So just get ready because and then she's going to leave him. And then you get into that scene and he goes, leave him. And don't worry because she's going to come back to him. But, and every time you're going through the movie, someone stopped and said, yeah, by the way, this is how it's all going to work out. And your brain's constantly doing that. It's kind of going, oh, this will happen, that whatever. Your heart doesn't work that way. And the thing is like that internal guiding system, call it instincts, call it spirit, call it your heart, call it whatever you want, your true self.
Intuition.
Yes. That thing goes, it's like more like a magnet, and it goes, just trust me, go this way. And the thing is, you got to trust it because it's you. There's nothing, unless you're lying to yourself, and your brain's the one that lies to you, not your heart. So you got to follow your heart. That's the thing.
And it doesn't often make sense. It usually doesn't make sense. It's going to completely not make sense.
Right.
To be like, why would I want to step out and do this? But it's because there's this, it's almost like that, it's this deep calling, or it's this whisper, however it is you experience it. I'm sure if you're listening, like we've all had these experiences where something has come across our path, and for some reason we're just drawn to it. It's just like, I have to go this way, and I don't know why. That's our intuition, and it's gonna play our head's gonna play games on us with that sort of thing. But the thing is that I love what you're saying about this search, and maybe it's because I'm reading this terrific book right now called Man's Search for Meaning. Highly recommended. I've not even finished it yet, but this is a huge component to all of this too. It's this search for meaning, and our heart leads us towards stuff that has meaning. Yeah, that has meaning to us, and our head kind of hates meaning to a certain capacity because it's just like, it's like meaning, like that doesn't make sense, like it's like, this isn't preservation. This is like, meaning is something that is so, how do you wrap your hands around that? How do you wrap your mind around meaning? Because it's always so personal, and we don't always know why certain things have meaning to us, right? It's like, why does this have meaning to me, but it has no meaning to you? And
I'd like to interject, because I'd like to say that meaning isn't always as personal. And when it's not personal, that's when it becomes a problem. Because we make meaning out of things that people tell us things are important. And I think Way of the Artist is saying, find meaning because you found meaning, but you have to go and find it. It's not going to be explicitly told to you. It's not going to be given to you or handed to you. It's something that you search for and you pull out of the dirt with your bare hands. And so, your parents and your teachers and whoever has told you, well, this is what's important. Make money, do this, have a family, whatever. And so you go, yeah, okay, those are important. Now, I'm not saying they're not. That's not what I'm saying.
There's a value, a kind of value.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, are they important to you personally? Or are they what you were told was important, and so you're living out of someone else's values, someone else's?
Yes.
And the thing is, did the person who told you, was that actually even important to them? Or did they tell you what they were told, and so down the line, and that's why everyone's walking the same path, that seems totally boring and totally like unfulfilling, because we're all just doing what we were told to do. And the problem is like, that's how life kind of begins a little bit. You're kind of told, and it's helpful at first, but you have to, the law of the unknown is saying, let's let go. Let's let go of what meaning I think I know. Yeah.
And it totally kills creativity as well. That kind of what you brought up too is so great, because you're absolutely right. meaning, our head and our heart both create meaning, but really only one of them is worth listening to.
Yes.
Because the meaning that the head usually creates is stuff it's not going to propel us forward. You know, it's not going to be a part of our evolution. It's not going to take us into things that are exciting. It will give us, you know, a safe, comfortable, but kind of just blasé existence. You know, like that's really like, there's a trade-off to it. It's like, yeah, you're getting a kind of safety, but, and I say this quite a bit, but to me, there's always this trade-off. To me, it's like, yeah, you get this safety and you get this kind of stability, but there's kind of a pain that is associated with it. There's kind of a pain that comes with it. And it's that pain of, what if I had done this? What if I had tried to do this? What if I had pursued this? These things that were in my heart, these things that were in my being, that I just said, no, I'm gonna play it this way. You know, and so there's a price to be paid for it. Just like there's a kind of price to be paid for following your heart. You know, like
Yes.
it can be a bit messy at times, but I think if we look at most of the figures who have existed through time and in history, past and current, the ones who have inspired us the most, the ones who have evoked the greatest achievements in our humanity, no matter what area that's in, these were all people who were following their hearts. They were all following a passion, and they followed it fiercely, you know, and they all had to face things that made them uncomfortable, face things that made them afraid, but they were connected enough to that sense of passion and purpose that they could wade out into that unknown, discover far off lands, make innovations in their fields, you know, like there's like the list goes on and on and on. Like without people following their hearts, we die and stagnate.
You know, it's I mean, there's so much to say. Well, where do I begin here? I mean,
Are you saying you don't know where to begin, Brandon?
I don't know. You know, this is what I do know. Nothing. I don't know really anything. I had this awareness at a certain point. You know, I'm 31 years old. I'm just going to tell the story. 31 years old. I come home one evening. I sit on the edge of my bed. I put my head in my hands and I start bawling. I'm 31 years old and I think my entire life is just a big fucking lie. Meanwhile, I've raised $100,000 to make my dream project. Got over 120 people to help me do it. I started a business where I was making $20,000 a month. And I was alone and feeling empty and feeling broken. And I realized that I had built this life that was this idea that I was told I was supposed to build, that I was told that's what makes life meaningful. That's what makes it matter. I was, in everyone else's eyes, I was living my dreams. People were paying me $3,000, actually $9,000 one person at that time, just to teach them how to do what I was doing. And I hit a point in my life, and I'm there, and I'm realizing this is not my purpose. This is not my meaning. This is not it. Now, there were certain things, don't get me wrong. There were certain parts of this journey that I was on that were good. There were certain parts where I was in my true heart expression. But there were certain parts that were way, way off. And they were in my mind of me trying to be somebody, of trying to be important, of trying to be good enough, of trying to prove myself. And so, you know, if I can give anybody a visceral experience of this, I'd say the heart will lead you to express yourself in a way of true meaning and true importance, and you'll be able to pull off incredible things. And I think about any of the great things that I ever did in my life so far have been because my heart called me to it and I pulled me. But the things that really created emptiness in my life were what my mind was telling me to do. And for me, because I felt, not good enough when I was a kid, and I bought into that story and I lived out that story, my mind kept telling me, just become somebody. Be somebody. Be somebody who's important. Be somebody who's valuable. Be somebody who gives everybody everything and does all this and be the guy for everybody. And that wasn't why my heart wanted to give. That was my mind trying to game the system. Now, this is the important thing I want to talk about, the unknown. Your mind is always trying to game the system. It's always trying to say, do this and this will happen. Do this and you'll get this. Whenever you think, do this and get that, do this and get that, whatever, be very, very careful, because that's usually your mind trying to game the system and figure something out. Your heart, when it calls you to action and goes, we don't know how this is going to work out, but something good's going to come out of it. Something. We don't know what, but something good is going to come out of this. And when I went to create my show, the show that we created, we got that $100,000 investment. I remember the day, and the producer handed me $10,000, and I was like, "This is unbelievable." My heart brought me to that moment, not my mind. Mm-hmm. My mind took the 10,000, 100,000, all that stuff, and said, "Now you're a big deal." That's where you get off, right? So the unknown is about not trying to understand and know what all the shit is, not trying to make it be something.
Yeah.
Let it happen, let it unfold,
And the thing is that's actually a more accurate view on life anyhow. That's really more of how life actually goes. That it's a weird thing. Our head, tries to tell us that it's the logical one. And it's just like, okay, and it's like we do this and we get this. We do this and we get this, right? There's like that is so not the case, especially when it comes to the big things in our lives. It's like that's not really how life works. We can control our efforts, but we don't control our outcomes. I think that was Dan Millman. But it's like we have control over efforts. We have no control over the outcomes of it. That's the only thing we actually have control over. But our head would like to convince us that we can make things come out a certain way. And it's just not true. And then it becomes a really defeating game to play, because you can never win. You can never win at that game. It's just this constant. And then if you don't get it, then it's just like, oh, well, then I just screwed up.
Yes.
Somewhere along the line. And then it just becomes a game of how you're screwing up.
Yes.
It's just like you're screwing up, you're screwing up, you're screwing up, you're screwing up. That's all it really turns out into, which is why there is a kind of logic to following our hearts on this and to being like, and into the unknown. I think that's part of the beauty of the unknown is like because there's so much wisdom in this law. There's so much wisdom that tells us like, no, let go of this control, let go of this needing to know, let go of this needing to be right, and follow this path. Just go this way. Just go and do it the best you can with as much presence, with as much trust, and with another thing that's very much related to this, with as much play as you can. Is such an important part of the unknown.
Yes.
Because like that when we can play in the unknown, like it's just like it really does become a playground. The unknown can become a playground with the right attitude. Right.
And a somewhat unlimited playground. I think when it I want to just go back just a second, just because there's something I wanted to finish about the last point. Your mind, in my opinion, is always trying to game the system, right? It's always trying to, it's always trying to beat the house.
Yeah,
right?
trying to.
The universe or whatever you want to call it. It's like always trying to beat nature.
Yeah, totally, totally trying to beat nature. Totally trying to skip steps, to take shortcuts, to do all sorts of game the system.
Totally. Yeah, and it wants the shortcut. It wants the easy way, and it wants the whatever. And there's I like to look to the mind when it comes to matters of safety, especially for others. Especially for, just general health safety, right? Like, use your mind when it comes to anything to do with could this kill me? Could this severely hurt me or severely hurt anybody else? Because that is our responsibility in this world. We are not alone. We have everyone else. And our minds, I don't think we should write them off. I think they're amazingly powerful, incredible tools. And Evan and I are not saying that they're wrong or bad. I think what we're saying is that sometimes they're not useful. Sometimes they actually clunk up the system and get in the way. And so when I say like game the system, I mean, the mind is always trying to go like and take a gambling scenario and turn it into a scenario that's like a sure thing. And that's like going to, to casino and playing roulette and going like, I figured out what we can do here. And, it might work out sometimes. And that's the problem.
But the house always wins.
Yes. The house always wins. Nature always wins. The universe always wins. And it always will come back down to the unknown. And, so I think what happens with the mind is the mind can do temporary wins. So for example, if you're, say, an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, the mind will go like, I have a system to make money and I can do this and I can make more money and I can do more of this and make more money than I'm already making and make money and blah, blah, blah. And your mind will work out all the ways in which that works. And that, in some respect, is not a gamble. That's intelligent, that's smart, that's great.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. The mind also goes and identifies with the problems it solves. And so then what happens is you become your money. You become your status, you become your success, and then all of a sudden the heart gets dampened and quieted, and you end up, millions of dollars, divorced, your kids hate you, and you're not really going after your life meaning, and all you ever do is work. And the mind brought you there, not the heart. Because the heart goes, maybe my kid's soccer game or sports game or whatever it is important. Maybe taking my wife out on a date instead of going to this meeting because I think it'll make me more money is important. Things like this.
Or
right?
maybe there's, I can take my business in this direction.
Right. With the heart.
With the heart, and enter that unknown territory,
Yes.
It's just like, and come back to life again.
Yeah.
What we're saying, I think this is another Dan Millman quote, actually,
Okay,
but
yeah.
I was just like, oh yes. In one of his books, he says, the mind is a terrific servant, but a terrible master.
Totally. Yes.
And I think that's like, we hammer this point out a lot. We really as we've relaunched this podcast, we've been talking, I've noticed we've been talking about this a lot, what we're listening to, the priority that we're putting in our lives. And it's important that we talk about this because we've been programmed from such an early age to not think this way, to not, and think isn't even the word I want to use it, to not act this way, to not behave in this way. Yeah. We're taught the exact opposite. We are taught to be safe, to be contained, to be small to a large degree, unless we had a really terrific mentor, in our lives at some point. And I really hope everybody has had that in their lives. But it's not a common thing. And I think that's why we're so adamant about this perspective, about looking at the world through this lens, as opposed to the one that most of us have been brought up in, because the result of it, again, you don't know exactly what the result of it is going to be, but I think we have enough evidence in the way that our world works, and from people who have gone and they've done all the things, they did everything right, they did everything they were supposed to do, and they're still coming up empty. On some level or another, they're still coming up empty.
You know what? I want to make a movie. Because I wish somebody already had, and if they had, I'd love to find it. But I want to make a movie where somebody's achieved everything in the material world. And we get to see what their life is like in reality. Because we see, this Wolf on Wall Street stuff. We see all this stuff where, and I love that movie. Don't get me wrong. It's fucking awesome. But it's a presentation of life that is not accurate. I mean, it's a glamorized, sensationalized version, and it's fantastically entertaining. But how truthful and honest and vulnerable it is about the real human existence, quite wildly inaccurate. And that's fine, because it's not, it's not necessarily, that's not its service.
Things did not go well for him.
Right.
But,
yeah. The thing is that we are constantly being sold the idea that we need to get status, get power, get freedom, get material things, make our life look a certain way, become a certain thing, do a certain thing, whatever, hit these checkpoints, hit these ideas. And the thing is that, like I shared my story a moment ago, I shared a bit of it, but like, come back to that moment. I just made my dream project. I just had, you were there at my 30th birthday. There's like 60 or 80 people or something, filled my entire house up, a buffet of food, I had the Jerry Maguire moment where, everybody made videos and stuff like that, which was kind of the Jerry Maguire moment for me, to be honest. And I got to see myself in the reflection of some other people. It wasn't that bad, but it was a little bit like, oh yeah, shit. And anyway, I remember that moment. I remember being like, this is it? I have everyone around me, and I'm this important person, and everybody's supposed to love me, and I'm this big producer, filmmaker, and I'm achieving my dreams, and I feel empty, and I feel like, and then it really hit, and then it was a little while after that where things started to really expose themselves, but like, money and status and stuff like that, and lifestyle can hide a lot of what's really going on, but this feeling of not being good enough, this feeling of not being valuable, of not being worthy, of not feeling important or like I mattered. And even though I was somebody to everybody, I was nobody to anybody. And I think that's the thing that we miss sometimes on our journey, is that we think that if we become somebody to everybody, that's going to be meaningful, that's going to matter, that means we're important. And, this is why it's a fool's game. That the mind does that. It goes, yeah, that's it. Be important to everybody. Be someone that everybody wants something from. You know what that bought for me? That bought me a lot of false fucking friends.
Yeah, well, because it's like your relationships then it's a transaction.
Exactly.
And it's always based on a transaction at that point.
Well, and that's in some ways, that's all that's how valuable I thought I was. My value in myself was so low that I thought people would never like me unless I was able to give them something or whatever. And in my own little weird, screwed up kind of way, I was positioning myself to buy my friends. Not necessarily with money, but with opportunities and with possibilities. And so if I just was able to accept, which I have now, that I am valuable simply as I am, as this guy who fucking loves making movies and loves creating and is passionate and joyful and saying, let's go on a road trip today. Is anybody free? That's the real me. And, if that guy shows up, fucking real friends. But when this other guy shows up, he's like, you need to be a big deal. You need to be important. You need to be famous. You need to whatever, And that version of me is a presentation of who I think I need to be or thought I needed to be. And so I think like the thing about the law of the unknown is that you're in the law of the unknown when you're not trying to be anything other than what you are. I did your weekend workshop, your first one of the first ones you did at least. And, with the training, with the acting and being present and the Meisner and being in the moment. And what that really demonstrated for me, in that it was such a good workshop, but what it really demonstrated for me was that whatever this is that I am is wildly fucking interesting. Not because it's more interesting than anyone else necessarily or any way, and that's what I'm saying, but it's fascinating to me. What the hell is coming out of this thing, this spirit, this body? It's like, you put me in the moment and all of a sudden stuff happens, and it's captivating shit, and you watch other people go through the course and you see, and they're captivating. I mean, I watched you work with one actor. He wasn't even an actor. Guy never did any acting class. And he was so captivating when he was up there on stage. just being present in the moment. And if anything, at the very least, you prove to people that if they are just themselves, that is enough. You literally give them a visceral experience of it. I mean, that was the closest experience I ever had, especially through expressing an art, where I got to experience myself being enough as I am. Very cool shit. But that's the law. But you put people into the law of the unknown, the law of presence, and then you let them unveil. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, and so anyway, it took me a while to learn these lessons, but we're here, we're sharing them. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, people can benefit from it, and not go down this journey where you build your dreams for everybody else but yourself, and end up in some ways kind of having to kind of restart the whole thing again, right? I'm glad, listen, I shared my story. I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of my accomplishments. I'm proud that I made my dream a reality. Sometimes I think about going back and doing it again differently, and that's the mind. I'm like, that's a fool's game, because I learned so many great lessons, and that's just the way I had to go to learn these lessons. And you know what? I could have lived my life and never learned this stuff. So if this is what it took, that's okay. And so it doesn't matter where anybody else is in their journey. You might have been going about it. You might have been buying into the system like me. You've been running the program, and then all of a sudden, maybe you're waking up right now and you're going, "Ugh, this isn't it."
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, eventually, I think this is another point about the law of the unknown, is that it is going to make itself known to you.
Yes.
It is like, there's no getting around it, because like, you can follow all of the things, like you can follow the life path set out for you, by your culture, by your parents, by your teachers, and say, okay, I'm going to do these things because this is what I'm supposed to do. And you're still going to run into the unknown, because you've never experienced it still. Mm-hmm. Even though you're following this path that people have kind of laid out for you, it's still going to be full of unknowns for you. It's still going to be full of because you're still going to be experiencing it from your point of view in the world. How, like, we're shaped by an infinite number of factors in our lives. So it's like no one experiences anything quite the same. So, you experiencing going to college, you experiencing, falling in love, you experiencing getting married, you experiencing, getting into a career or whatever, like all of these sort of like, this is how you do life kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, those are all still going to be full of things that are completely unknown to you. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to cast any kind of judgment on this, because the thing is that another beautiful part of this law is that there's no time like right now to embrace it, no matter where you're at. Accept the unknown. Like, maybe you're in a position, maybe you don't want to be there for much longer, or maybe you're happy to be in the position that you're in right now. Maybe there's been all sorts of unexpected gifts that have come out of these decisions that maybe weren't entirely your own. But the unknown and embracing the unknown can enrich everything that we're currently a part of. So how, like, the unknown can help us to find new meaning in the mundane, new meaning in the things that we've been doing maybe for years already, and say like, well, I don't really know what this is about. I don't really know what my job is about, what I'm really doing. I don't really know what I don't really know what my son, what my daughter's gonna turn out to be. I don't really know, how far I can and how intimate I can have my relationship with my spouse or whatever it is. The unknown can be brought back in to create, because it is mystery. Like that's another way of looking at the law of the unknown. It's also kind of, you could look at it as the law of mystery. Mm-hmm. And in that way, we can say, okay, well, what more is here? So the things that we already know, it says like, well, how much do you know about that thing that you think you know?
Right.
Because we are so, especially when it comes to people, we are so complex. We barely know ourselves. And to think that we ever really know somebody else is laughable. So the unknown says like, it invites us to make what's already here with us much more meaningful to us.
Yeah.
That was just something that kind of came up here for me as we were talking about this, because it's like, it's not like something you've got to completely change your life.
No.
And you've got to completely uproot everything in order to have a fulfilling, exciting life. It's like you can start with the things that you have right now.
Yeah. We're talking about the unknown, and we're rah, the unknown. And, I think that it gets our point across. We're saying like, the unknown's where you discover, the unknown's where curiosity and exploration and adventure exists. But, there are a certain amount of things that need to remain known, or, there's a certain amount of things that you need to be able to feel like you can count on that are dependable and reliable. And there are certain things in life that will be somewhat predictable or consistent, and that's good. And it's, I think with the law of the unknown, if you want to start applying this lesson in your life, this law into your life, it's about doing a little thing into the unknown and a little more and a little more. And you get more comfortable. You expand your bandwidth, you level up, you become better, you become more aware, you have more experience that is in a wider range than the bubble or the common thing that you're used to. And then what happens is when you go into the unknown, and you said this earlier, it always becomes known. You go into the unknown and it becomes known, and then you can venture more into the unknown, beyond the now known. And where you couldn't go before, you can go now because you know, and then you can go beyond what you know. And so the thing is when we never go into the unknown, we never know more than we think we already know, right?
Yeah.
And so the great thing about going into the unknown is you get experience in the unknown, and it becomes known, and you know more or have more experiential knowing, and then you can go beyond your experiential knowing. And this is what levels you up. This is what expands your bandwidth and your capacity and ability to become and be more who you already are. You just don't know it yet because it's in the unknown.
Yeah. The unknown is really, that's where we really find out who we are and what our gifts are.
I think we're going to talk about this eventually, right? The law of identity.
At some point,
like that,
for
right?
sure.
But, if you're interested in the law of identity, which hasn't been released yet, but if you are interested in that, the law of the unknown is like the first step into you're actually who you are. Because whoever you think you are right now is only a small fraction of who you are, and you will know more of yourself when you go into the unknown. You won't know everything that is yourself because there will always be an unknown, but you will get to find your identity more, and you won't be stuck being who you think you are, which is this person who's, let's all be honest with ourselves. How many of us have felt not good enough? How do you know you're not good enough? Well, you're in this realm of known. What if in the unknown area you actually are good enough and you just haven't had that experience yet? But in your family or in your environment or your school or whatever, you had the experience of not being good enough. But it's a very small, tiny little fraction of who you are is.
Yeah. I think that one of the things I'd say is a fairly consistent theme, I'll say, of stepping into the unknown and how that kind of relates to our sense of ourselves and our gifts is that when we step, or when the unknown becomes known, or when we step out of I guess it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But when the unknown becomes known, what we can say to ourselves is, I didn't know I could do that.
Right.
And I've heard it said that it's like life is about discovering that we are more than we thought we were. than we once. So shattering our own perceptions of ourselves, and that's the importance of the unknown. And the thing is too is that, again, I want to bring this up, is that like you're going to be confronted with the unknown no matter what. It's things are going to happen that are unexpected. This is the unknown making itself known to you.
Yes.
Events are going to happen, changes are going to occur. And instead of being kind of like a victim to it, or at least thinking or feeling that we're being victimized, what we're kind of saying is like, let's establish a more active relationship with the unknown. Let's consciously step into the unknown, as opposed to just feeling like we're getting slapped around by. When we embrace the unknown, we can actually have a kind of presence with it, and we can look at the unknown things that present themselves to us, because sometimes that happens. We don't always consciously step into it. Sometimes something is presented to us. And when we have this awareness, we can look at that unknown thing and say like, oh, okay, this is happening. And instead of resisting it so fiercely, we can go, all right, well, what's happening here? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What's the lesson here from this unknown thing that has presented itself? Because there's usually always something to take away from it.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm not sure, but like if we have a law of courage or not, if we're gonna run with that one or not. But we kind of do. We discussed the possibility of that being a thing that we found as a common theme amongst all artists and people who are on their own way. But, going into the unknown takes a little bit of courage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the more you go into the unknown consciously, actively, intentionally, the less courage it takes to go into the unknown. And when the unknown presents itself to you, whether you want it or not, it's less fearful, because you become accustomed to, oh yeah, I'm okay with not knowing what's going to happen. I'm okay with being surprised. I'm okay with being kind of shocked or whatever. And instead of walking around going, I don't believe it, you're kind of like, wow, I didn't realize that things could work that way. I didn't realize that this person was like that. But when I think when you are just so trying to control, when you're just so trying to manipulate and game the system all the time, and you get a curveball and you get an unknown thrown at you, it's just like such a piss off, because you're like, I was trying to control this. This was the plan. And
it can completely derail you.
Listen, it's not going to plan. So what are you going to do? Like, buck up, figure it out. You know what I mean? But the thing is, if you get used to kind of just being in that process, it's okay. It's one of the things I love about indie film, like being an independent filmmaker, because locations fall through, people don't show up, something happens, whatever, right? And so you just kind of start to learn to get this really amazing ability to just be able to work on the fly. You just kind of like, okay, that didn't work out, let's do this. And you always have like, as an indie filmmaker, especially as you get more experience, you just have like this like 17 options like always in your mind. And people are like blown away the fact that you're like, when something doesn't work out, you immediately have another thing to solve that. And if that won't work, another one. And like, I just started getting the ability to like just have these solutions to problems all the time.
Yeah.
Because in indie film, you just don't have the money and the power and the control to be able to do always what you want the way you want. But if you embrace...
And that's so often a gift.
Yeah. If you embrace it, incredible things can happen. And I mean, I can tell great stories about this, but the point is that the unknown has so many opportunities in it. And if you feel your life is short of opportunities, check the law of the unknown, because you're probably not venturing out into the unknown enough. That's why you're not getting the great opportunities. And here's another thing, Evan. Mm-hmm. When people say someone's lucky, that person goes into the unknown. That's why they look lucky, because they went into a place that you don't look at, and they're getting something there that seems like luck to you. But when you go into that unknown place, you see that it's not so lucky. It's actually very natural and very much a part of the universe and nature. It's actually a very clear thing that would happen.
It's a very powerful ally.
Yes. And so, if you go into the unknown, you begin to kind of become more of a leader, more of a person who can kind of help people to see. Because when we, I think one of the big things for me is vision, right? Like, for me, a big thing is vision. Going into the unknown gives me vision in areas that I couldn't see before. And now I can see them. And so then, when people are asking me questions, especially in filmmaking and stuff, I just have vision. I've just been there already. I already kind of know what that looks like. I know the principle of it, right? And so then it's not so mysterious to me anymore. But to them, it's very mysterious. And so they're like, how'd you do that? And it's like, well, I could get into the story about it, like how this happened on that film, and that's what we did, and that's how, I figured out how to do this. But like, it's really just going, okay, well, if the unknown occurs, if it's presented to me, or there's an opportunity to go into it, well, let's try, let's see, let's find out, And I think like the other thing to it, and this is the last thing I'm going to say because I'm on a little rant, but don't put so much time pressure on yourself all the time. There's like, when you set a goal, and this is something I'm always trying to remind myself of, when you set a goal, based on the known, you have a plan. Always factor in the unknown. Factor in a couple opportunities for you to go down a path that doesn't work. So let's just say you go, I don't know, whatever, you're doing sales, and you go, I want to make $10,000 by the end of the month. Okay, that's your goal. Whatever. So you go, I'm going to make $10,000 by the end of the month. I've been making $7,000 consecutively, but I want to make 10. And you go, well, if I just, do this many more calls and blah, 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 I should make 10. Fine. So instead of saying a month, which you might say, you can do, give it a month and a half and give yourself a couple trials, a couple weeks to just trial around and do something different. Now, if it works out early, great. You found a new way. But give yourself a chance to do something outside of what you already know you could do. And try it out and see what happens. Because this will give you a chance to expand and grow and evolve, right? But if you always set your goals based on what you know, you can only get the goals that are within the realm or the small little bubble in which you live. I have so much more to say, but I'm just going to leave it there. I get on these rants, right? But it's a great topic.
It is. I mean, and this is going to be one I know we'll be exploring over and over. Like all of these laws are definitely going to be brought up again because, like I said, there's so much about these laws that we have yet to know. We have yet to discover ways we have yet to communicate it, articulate it. Which is part of why I love doing this. Let's take a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about this beer. How do you like this? So I guess I'll just say what we're drinking. So we're drinking the Tiger Shark Citra Pale Ale from Phillips Brewing and Malting Company. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's kind of like. I almost would have thought it was an IPA just because it feels so hoppy and like kind of like sharp in certain ways. It's tasty. It's a little acidic-y to me in certain ways, but overall I like it. It's an enjoyable beer. It's good. Their can is sure friggin' flashy, man. Yeah,
it's like this neon 80s craziness. With this cartoon.
It's got a shark with paws on it.
Yeah, well, it's a tiger shark, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's got the tail and stuff.
Tiger sharks don't have paws.
It's a combination tiger and shark.
Yeah.
They need, they should stop doing the Sharknado and actually do like a tiger shark. Oh, yeah, it's got
a little tiger tail on it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Unconventional since 2001.
Yeah.
That's Phillips. It's good. It's a good little beer. It's, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's. I'm surprised that it's only 4.7% alcohol. Like I'm enjoying it, and it says it's a very light beer, but it's it's got quite a a mouthful.
It doesn't taste as light as it is, but I think like if you really like those kind of like very like I wouldn't say like it's not like sweet flavorful, but those like kind of like almost bitter flavorful beers. It's definitely one of those.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely not as dense as an IPA. And it's even actually light for a pale ale, but it's just super kind of like tropically, quite a bit of,
it's very
bitterness
tasty
to
though.
it.
You know, I've been enjoying it. Anyway, this isn't an ad or anything for beer. We just drink beer and the conversation tends to carry on.
And the conversation and we say some things, and then you say some things, and maybe it's okay.
Maybe it's all right. All right. Well, you know, I'm thinking we tie this baby up. Is there anything that we wanted to make sure that we communicate before we put a knot and a bow on this?
For me, there is something that I never got around to saying. This was something I did want to say.
Okay.
And it was a sentiment that was said to me from one of my acting teacher mentors, Larry Silverberg, which was because he talked about the unknown. He referred to the unknown, and I remember being like, huh? Like, nobody's ever talked to me about, like, said anything like this before in an acting class. And I don't know if this is exactly how he said it or if I've kind of, like, tweaked it and done my own thing with it, but true acts of creation only occur in the unknown. And that was something I never got a chance to get into necessarily, but we've covered enough of it. But it's really, and maybe this is something like I'm speaking to all of the artists at heart here, the people who are creating things consciously in their lives and in the world. And it's like, you must step in the unknown to truly create something, to truly create something that's never been done before, never been seen before, or at least not quite like the way that you do it. You must step into the unknown, because when we are only working from what we know, everything is contrived. Everything is kind of tainted in a certain way. And that can be all right. That can have a certain kind of result. But to do something truly, truly exciting, truly, truly creative, you got to step into the unknown. So that's what I want to leave it with.
All right. And, there's one thing that I was thinking I wanted to mention before, but never got to, was about the law of the unknown in relation to kind of being a filmmaker of your own life. And, when I think of a filmmaker, first of all, I think of somebody who is like the writer, the actor, not necessarily the actor, but sometimes the actor, but the writer, the director, the producer. They're the creator, they are the incubator of this thing, and they're going to, bootstrap, bring this thing together. And I think life's a lot like that kind of filmmaker, the person that's going to take their vision and make it come to life, especially the artist. Is it's a very artistic medium. And so when I look at life, I like to leave people with this idea that as much preparation as you can do for how you're going to write the story of your life and how it's going to play out and who you're going to be, it's something that you need to allow yourself to find as you do it. And I think it's good to set out with an intention and a plan to kind of be this person and live this way and write your story out this way, right? But as you go through it, you're in it. And no matter how much you try to plan for the future, and no matter how much you try to call from the past, you're always in it right now. And we don't really know what's going to happen. We just don't. You don't. None of us do. None of us do. That's good news. But what you can do in this moment is you can be the actor, be the writer, be the director, and you can live as the character in this moment and allow whatever kind of has been almost your life, just kind of let it happen, but be in it, be present, and allow it to be what it is. And try not to, look at the character you are as you're the actor. If you're trying on the actor side of this, Look at the character you are and be like, is this the person that I want to be? Is this how I want to cast myself in my story, in my life, in my journey? You know, and I'll share with myself, like, a lot of my life, I cast myself as like this bit part because I never felt good enough. I never cast myself really as the star. I never cast myself as the meaningful hero, lead protagonist. It was always like, I'll be the protagonist and the hero one day when I accomplish this, and then I will be worthy of being the hero of my own journey. But what if you're the hero today? That's my first thing. My second thing is that with all your writing of your life, you know, there's your past and there's your future. Do you like the story you've written of your past? Because your memories are what you tell yourself your story is. And a great exercise for working with the past, and I like to remind people of this, is what if all the memories you had never actually happened, but you woke up this morning and we downloaded them all into your mind just to see what you'd do? But it was how you had the values of interpreting those memories and the way you looked at those memories that would inform what you do, which ergo kind of informs the character you are. Next part, the writer of your life. Your future. The writer likes to plan. The writer likes to go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get that, this is going to happen, I'll find the person, I'll get married, I'll have the money, I'll be the big deal, right? And to some degree, that writer of your life can sometimes hit. They can kind of make it happen. The problem is with the writer part of it is that the writer tries to sometimes stick in the unknown. So when you're writing your life and you're creating your life, allow your life to sometimes just be a blank page that isn't already pre-written, that in this moment, you don't have pre-crafted dialogue to say. You don't have anything you have to do. You show up to family dinner and you typically do this. You don't have to do any of that. Just make it a blank page. Be a little different. Do things a little differently. Go about it differently. You can do that at any time. And then thirdly, whatever, you're the director. Now as the director, your task is, the director points the camera and either focuses in close or pulls away wide, pans over to this, looks at that, it doesn't avoid this, doesn't look at that, right? You can be the director of your life. What do you focus on? Where do you put your attention? How much attention do you put on that? Is this the way that you want to visualize and picture your life? Like if you're doing that and you had to present that, is that how you want to show everybody? I used to do this thing where I would kind of point my camera at like these victim moments I had and these moments where people hurt me or whatever. And I decided, like, I don't want to be a victim anymore. I'm going to stop pointing my camera over there. I'm going to stop focusing on that. I'm going to start pointing my camera at, like, this kid who wants to do this and has these dreams. And, I'm not going to say that some traumatic things didn't happen. But it's like, that's not what the movie's about. That was an event that happened in the movie. Yeah, fine. But we're not going to focus on it. This story is about something else. This story isn't about me being a victim and how hurt I was. This story is about this way in which I'm expressing myself doing this thing. So, I'm not saying that's right, wrong, whatever. I'm just saying that you get to focus and the director finds meaning and finds importance in things. And you can do that with your life. So, as you go into the unknown, you might not know what's going to happen, but you get to decide what's important about it. You get to decide who you're going to be in it. You get to decide how blank the page is or how much you've pre-written and pre-crafted. And so, if you take everything we talked about in the unknown and you become the filmmaker of your life, maybe you can start to live in a way that is totally profound and different. And that's what I would suggest leaving this episode.
Well, we covered a lot of ground.
Sure did.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you got something out of this, if you feel it improved your life or your journey in any way, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share the episode.
You can also support us on Patreon, where we have tons of great bonuses. You are the ones that make the show possible and help us to thrive. Thank you for joining us.